Good evening. On behalf of the commissioners and staff, I'd like to welcome you to the April 25th, 2023 City of Roseville Public Utilities Commission meeting. This 7-member commission is responsible for studying and advising the City Council regarding all utilities owned or operated by the city, including electric, water, wastewater, and solid waste. The Public Utilities Commission advises the City Council regarding planning rates, public information, cable television franchises, and other matters relating to such enterprises, and may also hear citizen complaints as to operations or rates. The Public Utilities Commission also advises the City Council regarding the activities of such joint power agencies as the city may be a member of or which relate to such utility enterprises. At this time, I would like to ask everyone to please put your electronic devices on silent. Next item is roll call. Lynn, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Bilski?
Here.
Commissioner DeMarchi? Not here. Commissioner DeLacy will be excused this evening. Commissioner Granger is also excused this evening. Chair Knox?
Here.
Commissioner Maish?
Here.
And Vice Chair Webb?
Here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Webb, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 on the agenda is public comments. This item is for anyone who would like to address the commission on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. When addressing the commission, please state your first and last name for the record. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the February 28, 2023 meeting minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? All right. Next on the agenda is requests and presentations. First up, item 6.1, Roseville Electric Utility Monthly Update. Report by Assistant Electric Utility Director Sean Matcham, summarizing the monthly status of electric utility activities for information.
Yes, good evening, Chair Knox and members of the Commission. I'll provide a brief update on a few meaningful items that is happening at the Electric Department. First item I want to mention is an item that I think I briefed the Commission at its last meeting, and it relates to the Electric Department's strategic plan update. We're in the process right now to go through internal process as well as an external process with outreach to update our strategic plan. Our last plan was a 3-year plan. We brought on some consultants earlier this year, and we started that process here with our new director, Dan Beans, has been with the utility for about a year now. And so after logging really the first year as the new director and with the strategic plan, prior strategic plan expiring, this was a great time for us to kick off this initiative, an important initiative for us at the electric utility. I'll mention it because I think we did send out a request, an invitation to the commissioners about a workshop that we are scheduled to hold on May 30th of next month from 10 to noon. And this workshop is really kind of new for us in terms of going through a process to update our strategic plan. We really want to take the time this time around to engage with the Commission, engage with our community stakeholders, our key customers, some of the other entities in the community like our neighborhood associations, as well as our City Council. And so I just wanted to put that on the radar again, a strategic plan workshop, May 30th, 10 to noon, and really important initiative for us at the department. At the workshop, one of the things that we're interested in doing and we want to share with the community and our customers is really some of the things that is really shaping our business environment in this industry. So the legislative regulatory influences, the power procurement decisions that we need to make as an organization over the next 10, 15 years, as well as everything that we're seeing on the customer side. So our goal at the workshop is to really present to you and and those involved what's happening in our business environment, how it's influencing our business model and our strategic initiatives. So I'll plug that item. More to come. We're looking forward to engaging with this group and others as we move through that update. We will take some time in advance of that May 30th meeting to meet with our council members on 2x2 sessions as well, to keep them informed on what we're doing and just to make sure that the areas that we focus on to make us successful in the future also aligns with the city council goals and priorities that have come out of their process here recently. So once again, strategic plan workshop, very excited here at the department. We've done some work already and we'll share with you as well the progress of that work at that workshop. So if you can make it, great, and we'll be getting invitations out to others in the community that we think would be important to hear this message from the department. The second thing I'd like to mention relates to our hydro surcharge calculation methodology. As you may recall, I think it was late last fall that we came to this commission to talk about our hydro surcharge calculation. At that time, we felt the need to make some changes to the calculation, the methodology. Over the last 3 to 5 years, we really recognized that mechanism wasn't really working as effectively as we had hoped when it was originally designed. And so we put forward an initiative and a proposal to update that methodology just to make sure that we were being more accurate with the way that we calculate charges to customers and how we recovered the lost energy production from reduced hydro production on the system. And so since we put it in place, we changed a number of things. Markets have changed. Our hydro portfolio has changed. And so this commission late last fall approved that and recommended it for approval through the city council. I just wanted to circle back on this and let you know that the council did approve that in March. It had its second reading last month. And so this is a mechanism that will go in effect July 1 of each year, and that calculation will be used for the upcoming adjustment. We'll have all the data to make that calculation final here in the first week of May. So that's all been in place, approved by our council, and I think it's going to be very important for us going forward to make sure that that mechanism does what we intended it to do. So we're excited about getting that through the process and appreciate your support on that. The next couple items relate to our advanced metering infrastructure project. You'll recall, I think at the February meeting, I mentioned that we were just getting ready to go out into the community with the first phase of deployment of our smart meters. This is was a lengthy project for us at the city. It involves the electric department. It involves the environmental utilities department. And we were very glad to get to a point where we were actually putting new assets in the field with customers. And so I just wanted, I think in the February update I mentioned we were just getting ready to go out and begin the phase 1 deployment. We did that. That went very successful late February into March. And so we were able to put out, and I'll speak for electric, nearly 900 advanced meters, get them integrated into our system, read them, and understand what it meant to, what we were able to learn through that process. So the phase 1 beta, we often call it, went very well. That's successful. And so now our attention turns to full deployment, which is to really get the rest of the community, rest of our customer base bring that technology to their side or to that part of the community. And so a lot of outreach is going to continue here in June. We'll begin deployment late June, July throughout the rest of the community. So I think the message I wanted to leave you with is phase 1 went fine, the beta went fine. We're moving into full deployment later this summer. That will take a little over a year by the time we get through the entire community. But in terms of the electric perspective, very important technology for us to understand what's happening on our grid, what customers are doing. And it's really going to provide us information and data to shape how we structure services, structure rates, and invest in infrastructure to make sure that we continue to have a very reliable service here in Roseville. So more to come on it, but important progress here in the last few months on this project. And then the last thing I'll mention is this is an important week for us for our legislative advocacy. It is the Cap to Cap week, and so we sent a delegation of folks from the electric department, along with, I think, all our city council members and other members of the City of Roseville, other departments, to go back and advocate to DC things that are important here for public power and things that are important here specifically for our community. And so great time for advocacy. We've got a number of important items that we're talking to our congressional representatives on. We're going to be talking to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, an entity that has a meaningful regulatory role in our industry. And so we get to share with them what's important to us. And one of the things that we will be talking about is supply chain challenges that we're seeing in this industry as we try to plan for the future and invest in development and growth here in this community. It may not be a surprise. You may have heard it before. Electric infrastructure, transformers, things are becoming scarce and pricey. And so we're trying to bring attention to that and see if we can get some federal support to help loosen up the supply constraints on some of that electric infrastructure. So important week back in DC, and so big part of our legislative platform here for Roseville and for the department to be back advocating on behalf of the city. So with that, I'll stop as really the meaningful items I think noteworthy for the commission that's happening at the electric department, and I can answer any questions on those items or anything else you may have.
Do any commissioners have questions for staff at this time? Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward and address the commission on this item?
My name is Lauren Meeks Harris. I live here in Roseville. I actually live in the older part of Roseville. They call that the central district of Roseville. And I am particularly curious as far as rolling out the new meters. If I'm able to ask the guests the question instead of the commission, or maybe the commission can answer this, is where is the... I didn't get to see the initial plans because I admit I moved here about a year and a half ago. And I know some of my neighbors were saying, well, we live in the older part and we're hearing more of the new meters going into the newer part, which is West Roseville. So how does this preclude the residents who are in the older parts of the city? How will this affect?
Yes, so great question. So our intent is to provide all our customers with the option for smart meters. So our intent is to deploy the new technology throughout the entire community, all our business and residences. So as we approach it, there's no particular part of the community or customer base that we're proposing to exclude to get the technology. We do have, and we brought this through the commission previously, if a customer didn't want this technology on their home, we do have an opt-out provision. But in terms of bringing the technology to the community, whether it's an older part of Roseville or a newer part of Roseville, our intent is to catch all our customers and that they would get this technology. And the long-term goal here is that customers would get greater insight into how they use electricity, how they can plan around using electricity, and be more efficient based on how we may set our rates in the future as well. So everybody in the community is our proposal. It will have this technology.
Excuse me, I realize I have just a quick follow-up question. Where may, say, the average customer be able to find this information?
So I think I'm glad to follow up with you if I don't have the specific information. We've put a lot of this information on a landing page on Roseville Electric's website. And so much of it has been around the overall project and what the benefits are for the community and for us as a utility. So that can be found on Roseville Electric's website. When we go out to the community as well, we will be putting out, or the parts of the community that will be getting the meters installed, we will be sending out mailers to folks in the mail. We will also be posting information on our social media platforms. And then before we actually go out and install physically the meters at a home or at a business, we will place door hangers on all the homes so that they can understand what we're doing, the timing, and if there's any questions that they have on what the process is, a contact information as well.
And how long is this phase process?
This phase process for the entire balance of the customers, and we're talking about 65,000 plus customers that's remaining. This is a 12 to 14 month process that will begin in early July. And so we won't be in the entire community all at once. We will be phasing, moving through the community in different neighborhoods. And that's when certain villages or certain parts of the community will see that communication directly, is when we get into a space where we will be out in the specific neighborhoods. You will see that media outreach. You will see those notifications go out to the customers.
Thank you. I appreciate you responding to my question. Usually I get a notice or something in the mail the week before, so it's nice to see that Roseville is being transparent about this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Could you just speak quickly to the implications for costs for our residential customers? Is getting a meter or not getting a meter, is it going to affect charges?
So getting a new meter, there's no direct charge to customers for upgrading this meter. There is a opt-out charge, one-time charge, and a monthly fee if a customer elects not to use the new meter, the new technology. That would require us to continue to go out and manually read the meter, and so there will be a charge if a customer opts out going forward. But to put the new meter in, there's no charge.
Right. The rates stay the same.
The rates stay the same. Yeah. The rates. Sorry. Yeah. For this particular initiative, that's correct.
What was the estimated time per house to switch a meter?
So what we learned, it was about, we planned for about 15 minutes. It turns out once folks got moving through the community, and we've got a contractor that's worked on this with other communities and other utilities, it was really a 5 to 10 minute process. It does involve a disconnect of power as we change out the meter very briefly, but it wasn't, we went into this, I think, notifying customers, count on 15 minutes. In reality, it's closer to 5 minutes. Quick little change out of equipment, but it does involve a service disruption.
All right, thank you for the update, Sean.
Yep.
Next up, item 6.2, Roseville Electric Utility Business Customer Satisfaction Survey Update. Presentation by Electric Customer Program Supervisor David Bradford and Associate Electric Analyst Joe Song on Roseville Electric Utility's 2022 Business Customer Service Satisfaction Survey results for information.
Well, I'll start off. Chair Knox, Commissioners, we're happy to be here tonight to share with you the results of our most recent survey. In addition to customer programs and account management, we also conduct annual market research to make sure that we're providing the highest level of customer service for our community. We do this in cooperation with California Municipal Utility Association on their annual survey, and this allows us to compare our results with the results of other utilities in California to gauge how we're doing. With us tonight is Joe Song, Associate Energy Analyst with our group, and he has been project manager for this survey, and he'll be taking you through it.
Good evening, Chair Knox and Commission members. Thank you for having me today, and thank you, David, for the introduction. As David mentioned, the CMUA survey is conducted annually by the association, and it's held as a customer satisfaction survey. The survey itself rotates every other year between residential customers and business customers. And this year, the survey was held for the business side of the city. Excuse me there. For brevity, I'll only cover the major points of this survey, but I am happy to report that Roseville Electric Utility scored well in all facets of the survey. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me, and I'll do my best to answer your questions at that time. Okay, and on this page, we have a few points to cover that involve changes that were held for the survey. So the last business survey was held in 2019. There was no survey held in 2021 due to COVID restrictions. This is also the first year that the CMUA utilized a new research company. The CMUA conducted a request for proposal process, and after the competitive process, they selected a new company called Great Blue Research. This survey was also the first survey that was held completely online. Previous surveys also had a phone survey component. And so, again, this one was a digital-only survey. It was composed of 40 questions, and the survey was open from October of last year till February of this year. What you'll see on the following slides are the survey results, which compares Roseville Electric Utilities' scores to that of other publicly owned utilities that participated in the survey and are also CMUA members. Okay, and here's the next few slides will look similar to this. I'll point out a few things. The blue graph or the blue chart represents Roseville's results. The statewide results are in the the green bars or charts. Also, you note there's the little electricity or thunderbolt icon in yellow. That highlights the main point or data point that I'll focus on for each slide. So this first slide asks customers to rate their overall satisfaction with Roseville Electric Utility. As you can see, we scored nearly 19 percentage points higher than statewide results for the survey. Because we have a new vendor this year, their scoring scale was a little bit different than the previous vendor or research company. If we utilize that same scale from previous years, our results would be equivalent to a satisfaction score of 94.5%. And so you can see Roseville is doing very well in this category. Next slide, please. This next question involved business satisfaction scores when the business contacted Roseville Electric Utility. And that can involve if they called into our customer service department, contacted their key account manager, or visited our website. Again, you can see Roseville's results in blue are much higher than the statewide comparable results. We're 21 percentage points higher and achieving a nice score of 95.2%. Next slide, please. This question involved our key account advisor. So the key account advisors work closely with several of our business customers. They provide advice, for the businesses, including things like energy efficiency or if the business has any expansion projects or anything like that. Nothing to complain about here. Roseville received a 100% satisfaction score or an excellent score from respondents for their key account advisor. Next slide, please. This question asks customers to rate their satisfaction level with Roseville's communication with them, so our outward going communication. Again, Roseville's doing very well, 14.5 percentage points higher than similar utilities. It's an excellent reflection of the work by our communications department, our utility billing department, which has a lot of interaction with our customers, and all of our personnel as well, including field personnel who might make contact with a business or citizen in the field. Next slide, please. This question asked respondents to rate their satisfaction with Roseville Electric's pricing. And you can see we do enjoy a margin or a benefit level above that of comparable utilities. The survey period, again, included October of last year through February of this year. So that includes both the time period when Roseville Electric Utility was conducting our outreach regarding our surcharge and a short time period involving the surcharge being in effect almost. Next slide, please. This question asks customers to relate how they perceived Roseville Electric Utility as being a publicly owned utility and whether or not that was beneficial to the community. So again, you can see Roseville is doing a good job of relaying the message that there are benefits to being a part of our community and being a publicly owned utility versus a privately or investor-owned utility. There is some area in which we may be able to conduct some additional outreach, which is the no benefit rating. You can see we're fairly similar there to the statewide results. So that may be an area of opportunity for us. Next slide, please. This next question asks respondents to rate Roseville Electric Utility compared to other service providers. And that can include things like supply vendors. This question had a wider range of possible answers. There were 7 total. And if you look at the among the best category at the top, you can see that Roseville received positive scores over 2 times statewide results for other publicly owned utilities. So again, Roseville is doing a very good job in that category. Next slide, please. This is the final data point, which is power delivery ratings. Customers were asked to rate Roseville Electric's reliability, speed in restoring power, and providing timely information during outages. All 3 categories we scored higher than statewide similar results, beating the statewide results by 20 to 30%. It's an excellent reflection of the hard work of the many employees of Roseville Electric and their ability to maintain reliable electricity throughout the year. Next slide, please. And that's it. It's a fairly brief presentation. If any members of the commission have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do any commissioners have questions for the staff at this time?
Just comment. This is really excellent. Nice job.
You have a comment. I had my first power outage due to Mylar balloons a couple weeks ago.
That's right, yes.
My wife wanted to go get a generator, and I said, just give it 20 minutes. It goes back on. So, good response. Is there anyone from public who would like to come forward and address the commission on this item? All right. Thank you, David and Joe.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item 6.3, Environmental Utilities Monthly Update. Report by Environmental Utilities Assistant Director Devin Whittington summarizing the monthly status of environmental utility activity for information.
Good evening, Commissioners. So we have one item to brief you on, and it's one that we did a presentation on about 2 months ago, and it's the Advanced Clean Fleet regulation that is going up for approval this Thursday, and that piece of that regulation will have significant cost impacts into the future, and will require us to start purchasing zero-emission vehicles at the end of this year, and then 100% purchase by 2020 at the end of 2027. So, we have somebody there that will make comments, and hopefully they'll make a carve out for us. But right now, it's looking like we're probably not going to get that carve out. So we're trying everything we can to get that carve out in place, because that will help us long term with our fuel supply and stability and pricing. So with that concludes the update for EU, and I'd like to open up for any questions.
Do any commissioners have questions for the staff?
I just have a comment. That just really sticks in my, after we had our little meeting. And so the other thing I brought up with council was the undue burden piece on a small local, utility. We're not SMUD or East Bay Mud. I mean, comparatively in size. So that part. But the one silver lining, I don't know if I guess I saw it on one of the local television stations did do a piece on it, is that all the old vehicles, we can keep those as long as we can keep them running?
That's correct. And actually, our strategy is if the regulation is passed how we think it's going to be approved, we're going to purchase more vehicles than we need up until, December of this year. And we're going to use those trucks as long as possible and even repower those vehicles as needed until the zero-emission technology actually catches up to where we need it to be to actually complete routes and be able to work, more than 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day or half a route.
Yeah, it's just like the law of undue consequences and the road to where is paved with good intention is just it's totally kicked in with this whole zero-emission proposal on the vehicles.
Any other questions, comments? Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward and address the commission on this item? All right, thank you for the update, Devin. Next up, item 6.4, Environmental Utilities Proposed Rate Case. Presentation by Environmental Utilities Assistant Director David Whittington on Environmental Utilities Proposed Rate Adjustment for recommendation.
Let's see, we have a... So good evening, Commissioners. Again, I'm Devin Whittington. I'm the Assistant EU Director. And this evening, we're going to go over our proposed rate adjustment and revenue adjustments. So what do we take into consideration when we start developing rates? Well, one, we want to make sure, or we want to evaluate how it's going to impact our customers. The second thing is we want to make sure how are we going to cover our debt? How are we going to fund infrastructure? Regulatory compliance, do we have enough money to cover the new regulations that are coming out, including the ACF that we just mentioned earlier? And then legal obligations, are we fulfilling Prop 218 requirements? Some of the outreach that we conducted to the public was, of course, all of you probably received your Prop 218 notices. We sent those out in March, and that's to give the public the information they need on why we were increasing rates. We dedicated a web page to rates. We've done multiple social media bursts and notifications. We provided information in our e-newsletter. We provided 2 public meetings, one virtual and one at Mahaney. We provided information to some of the community groups, such as the Del Webb Government Affairs group that they have out there. And now we get to the important part. How actually does this impact the average customer? So we're looking at a 4% increase for the water utility, a 6% increase for the wastewater utility, and a 0% increase for the waste services utility. How does that translate to your bill? So as of July 1st, 2023, that will impact the average customer's bill by $2.10 for water, $2.86 for wastewater, and that's for a total of $4.96. In July, go back to the start. Yeah, in July of 2024, there will be another increase of $2.17 for water, $3.03 for wastewater, for a total impact of $5.20. Now we'll identify some of the cost drivers. As everybody knows, the last 2 years have been record high inflation. So how has this inflation impacted the utility? Specifically, there's really 3 main categories of the ones that you see on the slide here. The big one is chemicals for the wastewater utility. That's pretty close to a 60% increase. Energy costs for all utilities, and then supply chain issues. So for example, some of the projects that we are looking at, specifically for the wells and the water utility, we got cost estimates for those wells that cost around $6 million. In reality, they came in around $10 million. And the waste services utility, 2 years ago, a garbage truck cost us $380,000. Now they're closer to $500,000. So you can see how those increases have really crept up over the past 2 years. And that's what this rate case or revenue adjustment is getting us to, is getting us back to being able to pay for those type of things and getting that back into our rate model. Added value. So this rate proposal will increase security at facilities, help us meet regulatory compliance issues. It will protect our investments through rehabilitation. So you're going to see us doing a lot of work in the community, rehabilitating infrastructure, doing things that we've been doing. It will also create additional reliability in water by providing additional well infrastructure as additional surface water infrastructure that we're looking to add on to our portfolio. Now, if you look at the financial plan on this bar chart here, you're going to see that the proposed rates are the red line, current revenue is the yellow line, and expenses is the blue bar itself. So the proposed rate adjustments will get us above expenses where we need to be into the future. And if we move to the next slide, you're going to see something very similar for the wastewater utility. Now, again, we look at a 10-year rate forecast. This is only going to show 5. We only do rates in two-year increments. For the waste services utility, you're going to see a 0% increase, so you're going to see that red line flat for 2 years. The reason for this is we simply put a pause on our rates until we figure out what the ACF is going to do from a financial aspect. We really need to analyze this. Again, one of the strategies we brought up is using older trucks for a longer period of time. We will be looking at doing a rate increase in 2026 and 2027, but again, we're kind of putting a pause on that until we fully realize the financial impact of that regulation. how do we compare in the region? So if you look at the dark blue bar, that's our current rates. The lighter blue bar is our proposed rates, and the gray bar is regional average. So if you look at all three utilities are under that regional average. Water is significantly under that regional average, and that's where we like to be. We don't want to be the cheapest. We definitely don't want to be the highest. We want to provide the highest value to our customers and our residents. How do we compare nationally? So this metric here actually came from the American Water Works Association. And the affordability index, you can see we're most affordable. And that's for the water utility, and that's somewhere we like to be. And for the wastewater utility, you're going to see a very similar slide, slightly lower, where if you look at us nationally, we're a really affordable utility. So with that, I would like to open it up to questions, and then ultimately we'd like to ask for approval of the proposed rate adjustments and recommendation to City Council.
Do any commissioners have questions for staff at this time?
I just have a curious question. So on the water, where are we compared to SMUD?
On water?
Yeah. Yes.
So for water, SMUD's actually, they don't deliver water.
Don't.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
that's
So
right.
it's Sac Suburban
That's
and
right,
some
yeah.
others that
Okay,
provide
also,
water.
Yeah, agencies. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
All right, is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward and address the commission on this item? This time we will close public comment, and I would like to ask for a motion of approval or denial of recommending the environmental utilities proposed rate case to City Council. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to recommend approval.
Second.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? All right, thank you for the presentation, Devin.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is board member, commissioner, or staff reports. Are there any reports from staff? Question or comments from the commission? No? Okay. Does anyone have any items that they would like to suggest for future meetings?
So I had one comment. I read the GIM on the hydrology report, and we have some lingering drought effects, and I think we're going to move into a very challenging period because Southern California is so dependent upon the Colorado River, and this very wet year hasn't fully fixed the Colorado River, so Southern California's problems regarding drought are not over. But here in Northern California, we have all the water we could possibly use and more. We may be subject to flooding as the snow melts, Anyway, it's going to be real interesting how the state handles this, their attempts to regulate for Southern California, because that's the majority of the population of the state. It's going to be really hard for them to bifurcate this, and so I'm going to be real interested to see how EU handles the messaging that's going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I can make a comment on that because we find it interesting right now. So there's 100% allocations, right? So everybody's getting all the surface water allocations for the first time in quite some time. But there is a realization of the Colorado River Basin, and then also in addition to the Colorado River Basin, groundwater issues. So if you hear that, we're not quite recharging the groundwater aquifers how we're supposed to. So we kind of have a dynamic approach on that. And George, if you wanted to add to that, please feel free.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that to your point, yes, it's interesting and a little bit complex because part of the state, like as you mentioned, is no more in a drought. And then there are portions that are still have those challenges. So what we are doing now in Roseville, as we stated, is essentially we are still maintaining the stage 2 to be in conformance with what the Water Board is requiring through June 10th, I believe. But our messaging, with regards to your question, our messaging specifically is no longer centered around drought. What we're doing is we are going back to what we're doing with conservation as a way of life, and that's what we're emphasizing. So we're encouraging everyone as a way of life to use water more wisely. We're still encouraging activities around rebates and that type of thing. So we know this is a long-term approach to how we use water, and that's kind of what our messaging is centered on. So as we're sending people out, it's helping businesses, helping homes on how, if they are seeing increased use, how can we help them to address some of those usage upticks to bring them back into what we feel is a normal usage.
Very good. Thank you.
I wanted to add also that over the next several months, there's also going to be several items from EU's water utility coming up as we look at the tentative meeting topics. There's a legislative and regulatory update from EU next month, so we'll find out what the legislature's doing. And then in June, we're going to have a water efficiency and water allocation update. July, we're going to have a water utility update, and then in August, we'll have a recycled water program update. So lots of great opportunities for us to give updates at each one of these meetings.
Yep, a lot more information coming.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to do as well is I didn't formally introduce George. George is now the water utility manager, so congratulations, George. And this is the face you'll be seeing a lot up here talking about the water utility.
Good. Thank you.
All right, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
One thing, did we get the motion to approve the rate proposal?
Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh,
We've got it.
trust me, I got it.
I just read the words, man. All right, back to that.
I move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Did we get a second on the motion? I'm sorry.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.